My initiation into teaching was in a school which had no exams till class 8. The first exam that the children took was in class 9, and that is because they had to face a board paper in class 10. So the ninth standard exam was in preparation for students to be able to sit continuously for, in those days, ICSC was never 3 hours for 10th standard, it was 2 hours. And so they took the paper then, and that was the only time they really sat through an exam. Otherwise, it was a comprehensive continuous evaluation system that we had followed, and it worked so beautifully. So the first batch that went up in 10th standard, there were 21 students, and without any exaggeration, all 21 of them got 100 on 100 in math. So,
That's
Wow.
wonderful.
so that is what a no examination system can do, because it takes away the fear of facing an exam, and it also reduces so much of the time that is spent on preparing for exams. Because the moment you have an exam, Manisha, you will be very familiar with this, teachers stop teaching 15 days ahead because children want a revision. So you have 15 days before the exam, instructional time is gone. After the exam, again instructional time is gone in compiling the results, etc., etc. So yes, I am with the children on this.
Yeah, actually, that system even operated recently. I remember CBSE had done the same thing. I remember for my son, he didn't have any exams till class 8. And
Yeah,
then when the exam started, he didn't know what hit him because this is like a new experience just to
that's
sit in
right.
one
Yes.
place and write. But it was fine. I mean, they were old enough to.
Yeah, you and I will agree that, I mean, particularly all those who've been in a residential school background, we all know that it's the last 2 months before the exam that children actually realize, oh, there's an exam coming up and I need to sit down and study. Otherwise, like when I admitted my son in the Doon school, Shomi Das was still the principal. It was probably his last 6 months when he was there. And at the orientation, he told all of us parents, he said, we do this, we do this, we do this. We also study was the last thing. So, and that's exactly what those schools are meant for and what schools are meant for. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, doing that examination can happen very easily with a 2 month preparation just before the examination. And if the teachers have been teaching really well right from the beginning, and if there is a continuous assessment, and if there is what we now call, and which is now becoming so popular, assessment for learning is happening all the time, then you will not have children going from teacher to teacher trying to get the best marks and cracking, they call it cracking the IIT entrance or cracking the NEET entrance. These are all things that have just started off. I was watching this new serial on Netflix called Hello Bacho. I don't know how many, if you've seen it, it's worth a look. And you have this, it's a story of this physics wala, that online, yeah. So that's something, huh? Somebody's asking us, what is this? Rashmi Giri. Oh, Myra is saying I started watching it just yesterday. Yes, Myra, I'm happy you're watching it. So it's really something that will hit us, because you realize what struggles children who are not so fortunate have to go through just to get that basic right of every child, and that is education. So yeah, it does hit us.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you what ma'am you told that nowadays because of the exam, school is teaching, revising, taking tests. Again, the pattern follows. So
You
in
know,
that
I was at a conference yesterday, at a workshop rather, and I had a whole lot of young teachers. This was for early childhood education, and I had a whole bunch of young teachers who were with me. And the person who was conducting the session was asking them how are they feeling at that moment. And about 9 out of 10 ladies over there said, we are tense because our children have examination. And
Exactly.
how old were those children? Some were 9 years old, some were 7 years old. So I said, what is this? It's the tension of the parent transferred to the child. So yeah,
So because of this examination system, the curiosity and creativity is taken away.
absolutely.
And the joy, the fun of life, they are missing it. Of
Sad.
course, because school, tuition, repeat. So
Luckily,
they're
CBSE
actually
is
not having
rethinking.
time for themselves to look into what they want to enhance
Absolutely
their
right.
skills and
Yeah.
other things. It is just the pressure. Rote learning, though we are saying that rote learning is not there, question paper is changed and other things are also
Yeah.
happening, but still teacher ka danda is like, I want the answer to be written in this way only. So that is what exactly the children are most scared about. कि हाँ ये मैम ने ऐसे बोला marks नहीं मिलेंगे.
Yeah, I know. Great, but at least we have the Sunday school where we have no exam,
Exactly.
and the children who are part of the Sunday school can talk to us freely, can ask us any questions that they wish to ask us, and we have a little bit of fun here. So let's get back to our reading, ma'am. We were reading the chapter on a treasure of spiders.
So yes, ma'am, I'll just share the screen. So
Yeah.
everyone, welcome to Sunday school. And here we don't have any exam. We just want you to be curious enough, to be creative enough. So do ask questions wherever you get struck. But one rule, raise your hand and just don't interrupt the reading. Or you may also write in the chat box. So just give me a second.
Good, Arfa. Your board's exam have ended, and we wish you best of luck for your results, which will happen a little later, of course. Okay.
How did you do, Arfa?
Yeah, they went pretty well, better
Well,
than
That's
my
good.
prelims.
good,
That's
good.
good. That's good.
That's good. Right. So here we are. I hope you remember some of the portions that we read last week, and we shall continue with this chapter. Manisha ma'am has very kindly marked the portion where we have to begin. So I shall begin from that middle of the page there. And if you remember, Gerald was looking for something to eat, and he and his dog went and woke up Yanni, and Yanni asked his wife to fetch some goodies for him to eat. And as they sat there and ate, the conversation that was happening between them and what Yanni was telling him is what we are going to read. Manisha, ma'am, may I request you to just go back one page so that we can quickly have a Yes, we'll read from this previous paragraph that we read last week so that we have a context to what we're going to read right now. So we will start from Yanni paused at this psychological moment to spit over the wall and roll himself another cigarette. Yes, he said at last, it was very sad. One so young. The tiny scorpion stung him in the ear. Put, like that. The poor fellow flung himself about in his agony. He ran, screaming through the olives, tearing at his head. Ah, it was dreadful. There was no one to hear his cries and help him. No one at all. In terrible pain, he started to run for the village, but he never reached it. He fell down dead, down there in the valley, not far from the road. We found him the next morning when we were going to the fields. What a sight! What a sight! With that one little bite, his head had swollen up as though his brains were pregnant and he was dead. Quite dead. Yanni sighed deeply and lugubriously, twirling the little bottle of oil in his fingers. That is why he went on. I never go up into the hills and sleep. And in case I should perhaps share some wine with a friend and forget the danger, I always carry a scorpion bottle with me. The talk drifted to other and equally absorbing topics, and after an hour or so, I rose, dusted the crumbs off my lap, thanked the old man and his wife for their hospitality, accepted a bunch of grapes as a parting present, and set off towards home. Roger walked close to me, his eyes fixed on my pocket, for he had noticed the grapes. At length, finding an olive grove, dark and cool with the long shadows of evening, we sat down by a mossy bank and shared the fruit. Roger ate his whole, pips and all. That means he ate the full grape. We would spit out the seeds, the pips. Pips are the seeds in the grapes, but Roger did not do that. I spat out my pips into a circle round me and imagined with satisfaction the flourishing vineyard that would grow up on the spot. When the grapes were finished, I rolled over onto my stomach and with my chin in my hands examined the bank behind me. A tiny green grasshopper with a long, melancholy face sat twitching his hind legs nervously. A fragile snail sat on a moss sprig, meditating and waiting for the evening dew. A plump scarlet mite, the size of a match head, struggled like a tubby huntsman through the forest of moss. It was a microscopic world full of fascinating life. So that's what Gerald was exploring. This microscopic world here is, it means that it's a world of such tiny creatures that you need a microscope to see those creatures properly, to look at them. But they have a fascinating life, is what he says. These microscopic creatures could be mites. Now, mites are tiny little things which come on your clothes, on your utensils, on the hair of the animals, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it was a microscopic world full of fascinating life. As I watched the mite making his slow progress, I noticed a curious thing. Here and there, on the green plush surface of the moss, were scattered faint circular marks, each the size of a shilling. So faint were they that it was only from certain angles they were noticeable at all. They reminded me of a full moon seen behind thick clouds, a faint circle that seemed to shift and change. I wondered idly what could have made them. They were too irregular, too scattered to be the prints of some beast. And what was it that would walk up an almost vertical bank in such a haphazard manner? Okay, so who understands what is haphazard? Does anyone here know what is haphazard? Take a guess. Anyone who knows the meaning, just raise your hand. Haphazard means not regular, not in a proper line, going any which way. So they were walking up an almost vertical bank, but not in a straight line, in a haphazard manner. Besides, they were not like imprints. Just give me 1 second, children, just a minute. Besides, they were not like imprints. I prodded the edge of one of these circles with a piece of glass. It remained unmoved. I began to think the mark was caused by some curious way in which the moss grew. I probed again, more vigorously, and suddenly my stomach gave a clutch of tremendous excitement. It was as though my grass stalk had found a hidden spring, for the whole circle lifted up like a trap door. As I started, I saw to my amazement that it was in fact a trap door, lined with silk and a neatly beveled edge that fitted snugly into the mouth of the silk-lined shaft it concealed. Okay, just a little bit of explanation here. a trap door is obviously a door which is designed to be like a trap. Okay, so here was a trap door, and the lining was as if it was lined with silk, right? And the edge of the door was fastened to the lip of the tunnel. Now, a shaft is like a tunnel. A shaft is like a, like a pipe or a hollow thing through which you can go. So the edge of the door was fastened to the lip of the tunnel by a small flap of silk that acted as a hinge. On your doors, you would have hinges, right? So when you have to open the door, or even sometimes on boxes, on lids of boxes, you don't have to take out the whole lid. You can just open it like that, and there's something at the edge, or sometimes two hinges on a box or two hinges on a door. I gazed at this magnificent piece of workmanship and wondered what on earth could have made it. Peering down the silken tunnel, I could see nothing. I poked my grass stalk down, but there was no response. For a long time, I sat staring at this fantastic home, trying to decide what sort of beast had made it. I thought that it might be a wasp of some sort, but had never heard of a wasp that fitted its nest with secret doors. I felt that I must get to the bottom of this problem immediately. I would go down and ask George if he knew what this mysterious beast was. Calling Roger, who was busily trying to uproot an olive tree, I set off on a brisk trot. I arrived at George's villa out of breath, bursting with suppressed excitement, gave a perfunctory knock at the door and dashed in. Only then did I realize he had company. Seated in a chair near him was a figure which at first glance I decided must be George's brother, for he also wore a beard. He was, however, in contrast to George, immaculately dressed. Immaculately means perfectly. In a grey flannel suit and waistcoat, a spotless white shirt, a tasteful but somber tie, and large, solid, highly polished boots. I paused on the threshold, embarrassed, while George surveyed me sardonically. Good evening, he greeted me. From the joyful speed of your entry, I take it that you have not come for a little extra tuition. I apologized for the intrusion and then told George about the curiousness I had found. Okay, what have you not understood, Rashmi? Okay, when we finish the chapter, Rashmi, we'll come back to what you have not understood. Thank heavens you're here, Theodore, he said to his bearded companion. I shall now be able to hand the problem over to expert hands. So, Theodore, see the way the author has introduced to us another important character, another important person in his life. So, the first teacher was George, and now we will come to know that Theodore was his second teacher. And these are the two teachers together who made Gerald what he finally became. And Theodore was his most favorite because Theodore was a zoologist and a botanist, and he knew so much about what Gerald wanted to know. Thank heavens you're here, Theodore, he said to his bearded companion. I shall now be able to hand the problem over to expert hands. Hardly an expert, mumbled the man called Theodore deprecatingly. Jerry, this is Dr. Theodore Stephanides, said George. He is an expert on practically everything you care to mention. And what you don't mention, he does. He, like you, is an eccentric nature lover. Theodore, this is Jerry Durrell. I said, how do you do, politely. But to my surprise, the bearded man rose to his feet, stepped briskly across the room, and held out a large white hand. Very pleased to meet you, he said, apparently addressing his beard, and gave me a quick, shy glance from twinkling blue eyes. I shook his hand and said I was very pleased to meet him too. Then we stood in awkward silence while George watched us, grinning. Well, Theodore, he said at last, and what do you think produced these strange secret passages? Theodore clasped his hands behind his back, lifted himself onto his toes several times, his boots squeaking protestingly, and gravely considered the floor. Okay, so we come to know that Gerald had shared what he had seen with these two gentlemen, and his first teacher, George, is asking Theodore for his opinion as to what may have caused this, what could be this. Well, he said, his words coming slowly and meticulously. It sounds to me as though they might be the burrows of the trapdoor spider. It is a species which is quite common here in Corfu. That is to say, when I say common, I suppose I have found some 30 or 40 specimens during the time I have been here. Ah, said George, trapdoor spiders, eh? Yes, said Theodore. I feel that it's more than probable that that is what they are. However, I may be mistaken. He rose and fell on his toes, squeaking gently, and then he shot me a keen glance. Perhaps if they're not far away, we could go and verify it, he said tentatively. I mean to say, if you have nothing better to do and it is not too far, his voice trailed away on a faintly interrogative note. I said that they were only just up the hill, not really far. Said Theodore. Don't let him drag you all over the place, Theodore, said George. You don't want to be galloped around the countryside. No, no, not at all, said Theodore. I was just about to leave, and I can easily walk that way back. It is quite a simple matter for me to cut down through the olive groves and reach Canony. He picked up a neat grey Homburg and placed it squarely on his head. Homburg is a Spanish hat. Okay, it has a wide brim like that. At the door, he held out his hand and shook George's briefly. Thank you for a delightful tea, he said, and stumped gravely off along the path by my side. As we walked along, I studied him covertly. He had a straight, well-shaped nose, a humorous mouth lurking in the ash-blonde beard, straight, rather bushy eyebrows under which his eyes keen, but with a twinkle in them and laughter wrinkles at the corners, surveyed the world. He strode along energetically, humming to himself. When he came to a ditch full of stagnant water, he stopped for a moment and stared down into it, his beard bristling. He said conversationally. Daphnia magna. He rasped at his beard with his thumb and then set off down the path again. Unfortunately, he said to me, I uh, was coming out to see some people, friends of mine, and so I did not bring my collection bag with me. It is a pity, for that ditch might have contained something. When we branched off the fairly smooth path we had been traveling along and started up the stony goat track, I expected some sort of protest. But Theodore strode behind me with unabated vigor, still humming. At length, we came to the gloomy olive grove, and I led Theodore to the bank and pointed out the mysterious trap door. Okay, we're going to pause just a while. Ma'am, please go back. Manisha ma'am? Okay, so here, I just want to say something here. Now, while reading this particular page, what have you guessed about Theodore and his habits? Tell me a few things that you have guessed about him. Yeah? Does anyone want to share what you have guessed about the nature of Theodore? What kind of a person was he? What was his passion also? Why do you think he would become Gerald Durrell's favorite teacher? I have so many questions that I've asked you. Give me answers to any of them. So, Arfa, Maira, Aradhya, who wants to answer? What kind of a person do you think Theodore was? Aditi? Any one of you, whoever wants to answer, can just ask Manisha ma'am to unmute you and just tell me the answer, because we need to know whether y'all are following what we are reading.
Ma'am, they can unmute themselves. This is not a webinar, it's a regular meeting.
Okay, right. So if you can unmute yourself and please speak. Maira, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so tell me, what do you think about Theodore after having read this much about him?
So, ma'am,
What is
as
the meaning of God track?
What is the meaning of? Say that word again. Me again. What did you ask me? Trap.
And what is the meaning of God track?
Where did we come across that word?
Please write the word in the chat
Yeah,
box.
I think you write the word, then we'll be able to tell you. Yes, Myra, you were saying something.
yes, ma'am. So, as he was already introduced as like a nature lover,
Hmm.
and he loved to be around animals, and
Hmm.
as we also saw on this page, that he had a collecting bag with him in which he
Yes.
would like to collect things.
He liked to collect samples and then study them later at leisure. So
Yes.
that's why he says, but he had gone to meet a friend. So he had not carried his collection bag. And then Jerry happened and he came along with Jerry and he suddenly found this and he wished that he had carried. And he also mentioned the biological name of the creature that he saw. What was the biological name of the creature that he saw? Daphnia magna, right? That was the name of the creature that they just had seen or Jerry had spotted and had brought Theodore to see. Okay, so let's continue with that. Okay, goat track. All right.
Ma'am, Yuvraj's assessment is that Theodore is a calm person.
Yes, very, very right. He indeed is a calm and a very patient person. And a goat track is actually, goats are very, very nimble when they walk on hills. They can easily go up the hills or the mountains and they will find a way. They will make the way. And when they keep walking on that way, their hoofs, their legs leave a mark and make a little road or a path. That kind of a narrow path that the goats make is then known as a goat track. So, when people go up a hill or a mountain which hasn't been climbed before and where there are no proper roads laid, then people who climb up hills say, let us follow the goat track. Do you understand that, Yash? All right. Yes, Manisha ma'am, we can go to the next page. He peered down at it, his eyes narrowed. Aha, he said. Yes, yes. He produced from his waistcoat pocket a tiny penknife, opened it, inserted the point of the blade delicately under the little door, and flipped it back. Yes, he repeated. Teniza. I think it's pronounced as Teniza. He peered down the tunnel, blew down it, and then let the trapdoor fall back into place again. Yes, they are the burrows of the trapdoor spiders, he said. but this one does not appear to be inhabited. Generally, the creature will hold on to Generally, the creature will hold on to the trapdoor with her legs, or rather her claws, and she holds on with such tenacity that you have to be careful or you will damage the door trying to force it open. Rashmi, we'll come back to your doubts, darling. Just wait till we finish this page or this chapter, and I'll come back to explain to you what you want to explain. So here,
Okay,
um,
ma'am.
right, thank you. Look at this word tenacity. Does anybody know the meaning of the word tenacity? She holds on with such tenacity. Tenacity means with a lot of strength and patience, okay? Endurance kind of a thing. So you have to be careful or you will damage the door trying to force it open. Yes, these are the burrows of the females, of course. The male makes a similar burrow, but it is only about half the size. I remarked that it was the most curious structure I had seen. Aha, yes, said Theodore. They are certainly very curious. A thing that always puzzles me is how the female knows when the male is approaching. I must have looked blank, for he teetered on his toes, shot me a quick look, and went on. The spider, of course, waits inside its burrow until some insect, a fly, or a grasshopper, or something similar chances to walk past. They can judge, it seems, whether the insect is close enough to be, yes, ma'am, to be caught. If it is, the spider pops out of its hole and catches the creature. Now, when the male comes in search of the female, he must walk over the moss to the trapdoor. And I have often wondered why it is that he is not ever devoured by the female in mistake. It is possible, of course, that his footsteps sound different, or he may make some sort of sound which the female recognizes. So, devoured means to eat up, to swallow, right? We walked down the hill in silence. When we reached the place where the paths forked, I said that I must leave him. Ah, well, I'll say goodbye, he said, staring at his boots. I have enjoyed meeting you. We stood in silence for a moment. Theodore was afflicted with acute embarrassment that always seemed to overwhelm him when greeting or saying goodbye to someone. He stared hard at his boots for a moment longer, and then he held out his hand and shook mine gravely. Goodbye, he said. I expect we shall meet again. He turned and stumped off down the hill, swinging his stick, staring about him with observant eyes. I watched him out of sight and then walked slowly in the direction of the villa. I was at once confused and amazed by Theodore. First, since he was obviously a scientist of considerable repute, and I could have told this by his beard, he was to me a person of great importance. In fact, he was the only person I had met until now who seemed to share my enthusiasm for zoology. Secondly, I was extremely flattered to find that he treated me and talked to me exactly as though I was his own age. I liked him for this, as I was not talked down by my family, and I took rather a poor view of any outsider trying to do so. But Theodore not only talked to me as though I was grown up, but also as though I was as knowledgeable as he. So, see the respect that Theodore was giving Gerald, even though Gerald was a small boy. The facts he told me about the trapdoor spider haunted me. The idea of the creature crouching in its silken tunnel, holding the door closed with its hooked claws, listening to the movement of the insects on the moss above. What, I wondered, did things sound like to a trapdoor spider? I could imagine that a snail would trail over the door, with a noise like sticking plaster being slowly torn off. A centipede would sound like a troop of cavalry. A fly would patter in brisk spurts, followed by a pause while it washed its hands. A dull rasping sound like a knife grinder at work. The larger beetles, I decided, would sound like steamrollers, while the smaller ones, the ladybirds and others, would probably purr over the moss like clockwork motor cars. Fascinated by this thought, I made my way back home through the darkening fields to tell the family of my new discovery and of my meeting with Theodore. I hoped to see him again, for there were many things I wanted to ask him, but I felt it would be unlikely that he would have very much time to spare for me. I was mistaken, however, for 2 days later, Leslie came back from an excursion into the town and handed me a small parcel. Met that bearded Johnny, he said laconically. You know, that scientist bloke. Said this was for you. Incredulously, I stared at the parcel. Surely it couldn't be for me. There must be some mistake, for a great scientist would hardly bother to send me parcels. I turned it over, and there, written on it in neat, spidery writing, was my name. I tore off the paper as quickly as I could. Inside was a small box and a letter. My dear Jerry Durrell, I wondered after our conversation the other day if it might not assist your investigations of the local natural history to have some form of magnifying instrument. I am therefore sending you this pocket microscope in the hope that it will be of some use to you. It is, of course, not of very high magnification, but you will find it sufficient for field work. With best wishes, yours sincerely, Theo Stephanides. P.S. If you have nothing better to do on Thursday, perhaps you would care to come to tea, and I would then show you some of my microscope slides. What better would Gerald want? Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. Yash, there was a word that you wanted to know. What was it? Yes, you had just put something in the chat box which I could not read. I'll just go back to that.
Thing that was Rashmi.
Was no, Rashmi wants the second page to be
What is
explained.
the meaning of embarrassment? Yash is asking.
Oh, Yash, to be embarrassed is to feel a little shy and awkward for having done something which you're not very happy about. Okay. And Rashmi, what seems to be the problem? Yes, Rashmi. Page 2, what have you not understood? I don't think she can hear us or she's there. Okay, so we still have time. Jugjeev sir, shall we carry on with this chapter?
Ma'am, just one sec. Let me just leave from here. I joined from my tab and I found a short video of the shadow spider.
Oh, how nice.
Oh, sorry, of the trapdoor
Trapdoor
spider.
spider. Yeah, yeah.
So let me just try and
Yeah.
see, Manisha, ma'am. Sorry, but you'll have to do this again.
Yeah. So Theodore is a name, Yash. Theodore Stephanides is the name of this biologist whom Gerald Durrell had come across. Yes, Arfa, you're right. It's the name of the person.
One sec now. I have to find this thing. Just give me a second. I have to find that thing. I just went for the wrong thing, but now I think it will work. Uh, Let me try. It's another way. Sorry.
And no issues. In the meanwhile, if there is any child who wants to ask something, you can ask. Has Rashmi come back? No. Okay, here we are. Great.
Okay, let me try and now play this for you.
This on the ground, don't pick it up. Did you know there
Can you hear?
Yes.
are spiders that make hidden traps? This is the ravine trapdoor spider. It has an unusual body shape with a plump abdomen that looks like it's been sliced off. The back of its abdomen is a tough, flat, circular shield resembling an Oreo. They craft elaborate tunnels lined with silk, but the coolest part is the entrance, a cleverly disguised trapdoor. Look closely. You'll see how well it blends in with the surrounding soil and leaves. It's almost invisible to unsuspecting insects. It waits inside its burrow for insects and other arthropods to walk by, and when prey comes close, the spider leaps out and snatches it. However, if a predator tries to enter the spider's burrow, the spider will run to the bottom and plug the entrance with its shield. The shield is so tightly fitted that it's almost impossible for the predator to get the spider out.
Hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you see this on the ground, don't pick it up. Did you know there are
impressive.
spiders that make hidden traps?
Just, we had read this word camouflage when we did even the inner life of animals, and you saw how beautifully that trapdoor was camouflaged in this in the ground, in the soil. It had the same color as the soil. So nobody could even suspect that there would be a trapdoor there and there would be a whole lot of spiders under that. Okay, great.
Ma'am, spider is a trap.
No, spider is you don't know what a spider is, Yash? Makadi. You know what a makadi is?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, so spider is a makadi. And a trap actually means something that catches animals or insects, or it's like a snare. Another word for trap is a snare. Okay, now like in when hunters go to hunt, they lay traps so that an animal can be caught. Sometimes the leg gets caught in a trap, sometimes they have nets, and the nets become traps for animals. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yash? All right, great. How old are you, Yash? You're in class 5, I can see. So you must be about 10
Ma'am,
years old?
ma'am, I can in class 6.
You're in class 6. So are you 11 years old or 10 years old?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
11.
11.
All right, okay. Okay,
I
great.
think by the time I was 10 or 11, I had read the story of King Bruce and the spider.
Oh, okay. Huh. Hmm. Right. Okay. Sir, shall we carry on with the reading? We have
Yeah,
about
I think
15
so. I
minutes.
think so.
Yeah.
Maybe, unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to finish the chapter.
No,
but
no,
at
we
least
won't be. We
we'll
won't be.
come.
So we can read for at least another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Manisha, ma'am, if you could please go back to the book display.
Yes, ma'am. Just give me a minute.
Okay. In the meanwhile, if there is anybody who wants to ask us anything while ma'am is getting us the page. Now you see, as we read this book, you will discover so many things about animals and creatures that we don't know at all. So we're going to read chapter 6, which is called The Sweet Spring. Okay. Now, spring can mean so many things. Spring is the name of a season. We are supposed to be in spring right now. Okay. But in places like the NCR, in Delhi, we hardly ever come to feel the spring. But if you are lucky and you are in colder places, maybe even in Dehradun, and definitely in places in Himachal and in Kashmir, you will be able to feel the spring. But spring can also mean a much smaller river, right? That's also spring. And spring is a verb also. So to spring on someone is to jump. And a spring is what is a, you've seen a spring. There can be small springs, big springs, large springs, right? The ones which are like a spiral. And the movement of that spring is what gives its name. Okay, the sweet spring. Let's discover what this spring is all about. During the last days of the dying summer and throughout the warm, wet winter that followed, tea with Theodore became a weekly affair. Every Thursday, I would set out, my pockets bulging with matchboxes and test tubes full of specimens to be driven into the town by Spyro. It was an appointment that I could not have missed for anything. So imagine he would have an evening tea with Theodore every Thursday, and whatever the weather was, Jerry never missed that meeting with Theodore. And what did he carry with him? His pockets were bulging. That means they were full of matchboxes and test tubes. So during the week, in all his moving around and collecting, Jerry would have collected all the specimens. Specimens are samples, put them in matchboxes or in test tubes, as the case may be, and he would take them with him to Theodore's place for Theodore to tell him more about those creatures. And who drove him there? It was Spyro, who was who was the person available for everybody in the family, and Spyro would take him to Theodore's house. Theodore would welcome me in his study, a room that met with my full approval. It was, in my opinion, just what a room should be. The walls were lined with tall bookshelves filled with volumes of freshwater biology, botany, astronomy, medicine, folklore. Folklore means stories, folk tales as we know them, and similar fascinating and sensible subjects. Interspersed with these were selections of ghost and crime stories. Thus, Sherlock Holmes rubbed shoulders with Darwin and Le Fanu with Fabre in what I consider to be a thoroughly well balanced library. At one window of the room stood Theodore's telescope, its nose to the skyline, its nose to the sky like a howling dog, while the sills of every window bore a parade of jars and bottles containing minute freshwater fauna, whirling and twitching among the delicate fronds of green weed. On one side of the room was a massive desk piled high with scrapbooks, microphotographs, X-ray plates, diaries, and notebooks. On the opposite side of the room was the microscope table with its powerful lamp on the jointed stem, leaning like a lily over the flat boxes that housed Theodore's collection of slides. The microscopes themselves, gleaming like magpies, were housed under a series of beehive like domes of glass. "How are you?" Theodore would inquire, as if I were a complete stranger, and give me his characteristic handshake, a sharp, downward tug like a man testing a knot in a rope. In a rope. The formalities being over, we could then turn our minds to more important topics. I was, looking through my slides just before your arrival, and I came across one which may interest you. It is a slide of the mouth parts of the rat flea. You know, now I'll just adjust the microscope. There, you see? Very curious. I mean to say, you could almost imagine it was a human face, couldn't you? Now I had another slide here. That's funny. Ah, got it. Now this one is of the spinnerets of the garden or cross spider, Epeira fasciata. So absorbed and happy, we would pore over the microscope. Filled with enthusiasm, we would tack from subject to subject. And if Theodore could not answer my ceaseless flow of questions himself, he had books that could. Gaps would appear in the bookcase as volume after volume was extracted to be consulted, and by our side would be ever-growing pile of volumes. Now, this one is a Cyclops viridis, which I caught out near Govino the other day. It is a female with egg sacs. Now, I'll just adjust. You will be able to see the eggs quite clearly. I'll just put her in the live box. There are several pieces of Cyclops found here in Corfu. Into the brilliant circle of white light, a weird creature would appear, a pear-shaped body, long antenna that twitched indignantly, a tail like sprigs of heather, and on one side of it, slung like slacks of onions on a donkey, the two large sacks bulging with pink beads. Called Cyclops because, as you can see, it has a single eye situated at the center of its forehead. That's to say, in the center of what would be its forehead if a Cyclops had one. In ancient Greek mythology, as you know, a Cyclops was one of a group of giants, each of whom had one eye. Their task was to forge iron for Hephaestus. Who has read about the Cyclops? I think I told you all to read some Greek and Roman mythology, right? I'm sure Jugjeev sir would have read a lot of them in his school while he was in school. Maybe we probably will not remember everything that we read, sir, but Cyclops, at least what a Cyclop is, I still remember. I don't remember the story. Now, to forge iron here, children, that's what their task was, the Cyclops task. But the spider that he was talking about is called a Cyclops. Yash, a test tube. Have you not been to the laboratory in your school? To the science lab in your school? In your science lab, I'm sure you will be able to see a test tube. So it's like a little very narrow kind of a glass thing in which you keep samples. Maybe you could ask your science teacher to show it to you in the lab. Okay. All right. So any questions so far other than that? So we'll read a little more and then we'll stop for today. Outside, the warm wind would shoulder the shutters, making them creak, and the raindrops would chase each other down the window pane like transparent tadpoles. Aha! It is curious that you should mention that. The peasants in Salonika have a very similar superstition. No, merely a superstition. I have a book here that gives a most interesting account of vampires in Bosnia. It seems that the local people there, tea would arrive, the cake squatting on cushions of cream, toast in a melting shawl of butter, cups agleam, and a faint wisp of steam rising from the teapot spout. All right, so quite a few things I think we need to understand before we go ahead. Okay, so first of all, how many of you understand this word superstition? Does anyone understand what a superstition is? Because I'm going to give you a little bit of work today to do on superstition. Who knows the meaning? Yes, Maira, tell me what a superstition is.
Ma'am, in Hindi, it's called Andhvishwas, which
Andhavishwas.
like whatever like religious things you believe in or things which are not exactly proven scientifically,
Yes.
but you have some beliefs.
Right. Give me an example of a superstition.
Ma'am, that we should not wash our hair on Thursday.
Okay. There's a very common superstition. If a black cat crosses your way as you're walking, and if you walk ahead, you will meet with bad luck. Right? So, how many of you know some superstitions? And if you don't, you can ask your mothers to tell you, or your fathers or grandmothers, grandfathers, whoever, to tell you what superstitions are. right? Okay. Anything else you want to know?
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, Yuvraj.
Ma'am, what I think is that superstition can be like eating egg or some non-veg on Tuesday is not good.
Yes, correct. Correct. So those are all beliefs that for some reason have come down the generations and we have started believing in them. So maybe, yes, there's one which Disha has written here, believing that breaking a mirror will bring you
Ma'am,
7 years of bad luck. Yeah.
ma'am, trimming nails in afternoon.
Trimming nails on a Tuesday, trimming nails on a Thursday, all kinds of things. And superstitions are different in different regions. Okay, yes, they are false beliefs, Nitya, definitely. But there are people who hold on to these superstitions, right? Today is going to be the final of the World Cup, Cricket World Cup. I'm sure a lot of you are cricket fans here. So there are a lot of cricketers who are very superstitious. So they have some lucky charms and they believe that they should carry that with them when they go to play a very important match. Otherwise, they might lose. So I've read of certain cricketers like Mohinder Amarnath used to have a handkerchief, a red color handkerchief, yes, which he would put behind the collar of his shirt at every important match, and so on and so forth. Some people don't change their bat, or they have a special bat. I think Tendulkar had a very special bat and he wouldn't let go of it because that was considered to be his lucky bat. So superstitions can be of different kinds and different things that you want to believe in. So, what I would like all of you children to do is to see whether you can get a little collection of superstitions from your own families, friends, and then make a list of it, and you could send it across as a reflection of what you think these superstitions mean, and you can share it with us, and that would be lovely. Also, if there is any other reflection on the kind of teacher student relationship that Gerald shared with his teacher Theodore, is also something that you might want to share, your thoughts on this. Okay? So we shall stop here now. It's almost 11:30, unless any one of you wants to share something quickly. Disha says some people carry objects like four-leaf clovers or rabbit's feet, believing it brings good fortune. True, true.
Ma'am, before doing any good positive work or maybe starting any positive work, we should eat jaggery powder and maybe curd
And
first.
dahi and chini. Does your mother feed you dahi with chini before you go to write an exam?
Yes,
Many
ma'am.
mothers do that, or grandmothers do that, right? Okay, great. All right. So you all have a lovely Sunday and think about what we just read about Theodore and Jerry and trapdoor spiders and Cyclops. And if you can, along with the reflection that I've told you to think about, you
Please
can
explain
also
what is
read.
cyclos.
Cyclops is the name of a creature which you can read in Greek mythology. A cyclops was like a monster with just one eye on his forehead, right? And they were like giants. And there were a whole bunch of cyclops, and they would be given tasks by their master to go and do something for him. Okay? So but I would like you to read some of this Greek mythology stories. Okay, they are as interesting as your Harry Potter is. So do read them. Okay, right. All right, Manisha ma'am and Jugjeev sir, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Wonderful as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're most
And
welcome. I enjoy myself self on these Sundays.
Yeah,
Great.
ma'am. Now, to try and encourage children to read books and share about the books that they've read, um, Myra has volunteered to talk about atomic habits, and she's ready to talk
Wow.
about it today. So, if
Okay,
you want,
great.
you can hang around for a bit.
Yeah,
Myra,
I'll do
if
that.
you're
I'll
ready,
do that. I'll just keep my audio.
you ought, yeah. So, Myra, if you want to go for it now.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. So, I think last to last session we were talking about James Clear, and the name Atomic Habits has come. It's a very famous book, and like I have it and I've read it. This book is about how you can make new habits. It says on the cover, tiny changes, remarkable result. So, the thing I like about this book is that whenever we think about making a change in our life, we think big, like we have to make this change, that change. But this book teaches us that even tiny changes matter, and even if you become 1% better every single day, it's going to add up. And it doesn't only teaches us how to make good habits, but it also teaches us how to break old ones and to change the pattern in your life. And if you want to buy this book, I would really recommend it. As there's also a summary after each chapter. So let's say that you've read the book, and after some time you want to revisit the concepts in this book. You could just read the summary the author has given after each chapter, and he has given lots of practical tips that people can follow. It focuses on both theory and also mentality, like how you're gonna approach the habits. It tells us, like for example, in my good school, we're trying to build a habit of reading. So instead of saying that I'm trying to read, the author says that we fit in our mind that I am a reader, and just make it clear in our mentality so our brain knows that yes, I'm a reader, and we'll automatically start to read more. So it's a really good book, and I'll recommend it a lot.
Lovely. Myra, I really like this. I've read the book too, Atomic Habits, and it is a book that has influenced many people. So if you can understand it, it's a kind of a positive psychology, and it's like self hypnosis. You keep telling yourself, we constantly say, when you say that I can do it, you will be able to do it. So habits are like, I can change my habit. And you start believing that, yes, I can do it, I can do it, I can change it. So you can actually change it. But generally, people say force of habit, right? And that's what he talks about also. Force of habit is something that is a very convenient excuse. You say, I'm so used to doing this and I need to keep doing it the same way. But it's not necessary to carry on doing it the same way, because if you put your mind to it, you can change. So it's about the power of your own beliefs and telling yourself that you can do something. Very good, Myra. Good sharing.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you
Thank you,
for.
I
Myra. Tell us a little bit more. Tell us, give us some little one or two more examples.
Okay, sir. So, like in the starting of the book, the author talks about his journey and why we should be reading this book and why we should follow his advice. Anyone can write a book, but why should we trust his advice? So, his journey was really hard, and it really touched me about what he had gone through in his life, and how he had consciously decided to make the changes. He gives us lots of examples in this book so we can actually understand how to implement it in our real life. And it's not like कि हमने एक बार पढ़ लिया and then we move on and don't do anything. It's like a guide, and we have to follow along with it. Like every chapter is a different thing. We read one chapter, implement it in our lives, and then move on to the next chapter. And it like really helped me also develop many new habits and break all the old ones.
Right. So, when have you sort of used the book to try and break an old habit? Just talk to us about it.
Yes, sir. So for me personally, I'm a really big homebody, and I still am. But so because of that, I wasn't really getting any kind of physical movement, and I would just stay at home doing crafts and reading books all day long, which I still do. But now I have started to like go down a bit more, started to incorporate workouts and physical movement with it. There was this like tip in the book that you have to set your environment in a way that helps it follow your habits easier. It reduces the friction between you and your habit. So I have like a whole workout list set on my tablet. So whenever I feel like working out, I just have to open that list and select anything. And whenever I go down, I put any kind of podcast or songs to enjoy my time downstairs. And it really reduces the friction between me and like physical movement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
it is
you.
actually a wonderful way for time management, and I hope many of your friends must have understood the positive thinking, the power of positive thinking, and time management. Basically, what I've understood so far is children are not able to do time management properly. So, the idea which you have given for writing the chores down and reading it out whenever you have time from the to-do list from your tablet, it actually makes sense. And yes, I think is going to be followed by many of the students. Over to Jagdeep, sir.
Yeah, no, that I think it's digressing a little bit, but Myra, the point you made around no physical movement is true of many children, especially day schools. Uh, Physical movement is really, really important to stay fit, and it's what keeps your brain going. It's very important for your brain. And especially, I mean, you think during exams, like, or when you're taking a break, that's a good time to actually go and do something physical because it takes your mind off what you're doing. Also, it creates certain hormones which are beneficial for you. So it's physical, some physical activity is actually really important in everybody's life. So if you're uh, you know, not having it as a part of your daily routine, maybe you should ask Myra, how does she feel after this? After you started to do this, how do you feel?
Sir, like I feel really amazing after doing any kind of physical movement. Some days in the starting, I feel like I don't want to do it, but I push myself, and after completing that, I just feel so happy, and all the like the endorphins and the dopamine just flowing through inside my body, and I feel really good. And there's a sense of achievement as well that I did it today, and I can like do this every single day.
Thank you. You said it much better than I could have. And so those are the brain chemicals hormones I was talking about. And one key thing that Myra also said, many times we don't feel like doing something. Just tell yourself, do it for 5 minutes. Just start, and then you see what happens. Okay, so Manisha ma'am, I can spend the full day talking about this, so let's stop here and get to your Hindi book. But while you're setting it, or you don't have to set it up, but you'll have a quiz or something for us, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
Myra, thank you for doing that. I think I encourage everybody to you know share about a book that they've recently read, and this is the forum to do it. Please write book reviews, come and talk about it so that others also get to know about the book you read and which you sort of recommend for others to read. So I'd encourage other people to do this as well. So over to you, Manisha.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. It's just that last week we all missed, and we are also aware that your exams were going on. So, few of you have already done with your exam is over. You all are aware, and for newcomers, those who are joined today, we generally go with two books, one English and one Hindi. So, my Hindi book, if you all can see, it is. Can you read the name?
Ma'am, Ruskin Bond.
Is Ruskin Bond's book, The Whistling Schoolboy or Anya Kahaniya. So before I start reading, let me tell you this is the very last chapter of the book, and it is subdivided into 10 more chapters. So this story is very last, and since it is a very long story, I kept it for the end, and we may not be able to finish this today. So हम इसको 2-3 week में, it depends how much I'll be able to read. But before that, I have a little quiz for you. I hope you will like the quiz. So let me just share my screen. Is my screen visible to you? So you all may unmute and can tell me, why do we read books? This is my first question.
B, to gain knowledge, explore ideas. To gain knowledge and explore ideas.
That is good. But I don't know why it is echoing. I believe everyone has switched on at the same time. So please unmute only once. So we read books to gain knowledge and explore ideas. This is what exactly we were speaking in the beginning of the session today. कि ज्यादातर हम पढ़ाई करते हैं, एग्जाम देते हैं, फिर भूल जाते हैं, टीचर स्कूल में रिवाइज भी कराते हैं, बट जब हम इस माइंडसेट से पढ़ेंगे कि हमें नॉलेज लेनी है और दूसरे आइडियाज को एक्सप्लोर करना है, then the idea remains with you. Second question, if you don't understand a paragraph while reading, what should you do?
Both B and C. Try
Both
reading
B
it
and C.
someone or look it up.
Certainly. तो अगर हमें कोई चीज समझ में नहीं आती है तो हमें दोबारा धीमे धीमे पढ़ना चाहिए या फिर किसी से पूछना चाहिए कि इसका आंसर क्या हो सकता है या ये वर्ड का मतलब क्या है. आजकल एआई के कारण बहुत ही ज्यादा फैसिलिटी हो गई है, डिक्शनरी भी है, यू कैन यूज बोथ. If you feel nervous before an exam, what helps the most?
Taking deep breaths and reviewing calmly.
Option B.
Option B.
Why not panicking? क्योंकि ज्यादातर हम पैनिक हो जाते हैं कुछ भी नया एग्जाम है. इट्स नॉट ऑलवेज रिक्वायर्ड कि एग्जाम इज रिटन, लाइफ इज एन एग्जाम इटसेल्फ, और कुछ ना कुछ नया हम रोज सीखते हैं, समझते हैं, करते हैं. So what will happen if you panic?
Ma'am, if we panic, we'll become more nervous and maybe we will not be able to focus much on the exam and just feel very bad.
Exactly. जो हमने पढ़ा है वो भी भूल जाएंगे पैनिक करने से, एंड हम अपने थॉट्स को कलेक्ट नहीं कर पाएंगे, एंड जो भी हमें एग्जाम में लिखना है, इट कैन बी एनी एग्जाम, उसको हम अच्छे से नहीं कर पाएंगे. So the best thing is taking deep breaths and reviewing calmly. Thank you so much, Maira, for sharing. How much reading each day can build a strong habit?
Any of the above.
Any of the above.
Why?
Any of the above.
Why? 5 मिनट पढ़ने से क्या होगा?
It doesn't matter how much you read, it just matters that you do it every day.
Exactly.
Even if
Consistency
you do a
matters.
little bit, it still builds a habit. Something is better than nothing.
Certainly. So it is not about quantity, it is about quality and consistency. Consistency does matter. Timing does not matter. कुछ भी habit आपको form करना है, just जैसे कि sir ने कहा है that I'll be doing it for 5 minutes. So habit develop करने के लिए 5 minutes is more than enough. Which sentence shows a positive study mindset?
I will try and improve every day.
And what if you...
Sorry, Manisha, that's the point Myra made, that, one small step every day, right? Boon boon se sagar banta hai.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
So consistency does matters, and again I'll say the same thing. Quality is better than quantity. पढ़ते जाओ, but एक दिन पढ़ा, next day you're not reading, doesn't make sense. And it'll make, जैसे सर ने बोला है कि बूंद बूंद से सागर भरता है, so naturally. And I will try and improve every day is a positive study mindset. So with that mindset, we'll go to the next question. Which type of reading makes learning exciting?
Option B.
Stories, comics,
Stories,
comics, biography.
Option B.
Why?
Option B.
Why science facts, biographies, stories, comics makes
Ma'am,
learning
it doesn't
exciting?
matter that on the stories, comics, science facts, biographies, blah 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 are interesting. What I exactly think is that what in which subject, like only textbooks, nothing, only exam notes, whatever in which I interest is in wake ups are interest in which in textbooks, not only in stories and comics. If we have interest in reading textbooks, then reading textbooks is also it's exciting learning.
Okay, so I just want to conclude this. It doesn't matter what you are reading, but yes, reading a story, comic, or science fact or biography takes you to another world. So it enhances your curiosity and creativity. So yes, to make your reading exciting, apart from the textbooks, you can always read certain other books which will be helpful and guiding you for your future. Thank you so much, Yuvraj, for sharing that. What is good way to remember what you read? Because कई बार होते हैं एग्जाम के समय या normally भी हम भूल जाते हैं हमने जो पढ़ा. So what could be one good method?
All of these.
All of
All
them.
of these.
Okay. So can you enhance how all of these?
Explaining it is like on the top of the scale of learning, scientifically speaking. The maximum retention is shown when we teach it to someone else, because then we are also reviewing how much we have learned from it and highlighting key points. This is for usually visual learners who learn using their eyes. Highlighting it makes it easy to read, and our eyes quickly drift towards it. I also personally think that this really helps me. And then making small notes. Some people learn better just by writing it, and it helps them synthesize the information. So that is also a valid option.
So can I add up here that it is portraying the three learning styles, auditory, kinesthetic, and it also enhances the listening skills.
Yeah, we can also be auditory learners. We can learn via podcasts and all
So
lectures.
visual learner, kinesthetic, and auditory, all the three learning styles can be taken care of. So जब हम खुद पढ़ते हैं तो हम समझते हैं, but जब हम किसी और को पढ़ाते हैं तो हम it's a kind of revision what we are doing.
Yes.
सो रिवाइज भी हो जाता है आपका, आप दूसरों को भी बताते हो एंड सुन के वो भी आपस में पीयर टीचिंग लर्निंग हो जाता है, दैट आल्सो बिकम्स वेरी गुड. एंड दिस इज द ओनली रीजन एट सैटरडे स्कूल वी कीप इंसिस्टिंग दैट प्लीज सेंड योर रिफ्लेक्शन. क्योंकि जब आप कुछ रिफ्लेक्ट करते हो, कुछ बताते हो टॉपिक के ऊपर, बुक के ऊपर में, या अपने थॉट रखते हो, तो दूसरे बच्चे इंस्पायर होते हैं, मोटिवेट होते हैं उनको पढ़ के कि दे शुड ऑल्सो बी राइटिंग अबाउट इट. So, उस मोटिवेशन को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए दिस इज माय नेक्स्ट एंड आई बिलीव द सेकंड लास्ट क्वेश्चन.
I just want to add a couple of points to what you all just talked about. If you're not explaining to a friend, you can just pretend to be explaining to a friend. If you want to make notes, close the book and make the notes. Because the trick here is to force your brain to remember.
That's called
That's how
active
neural
retention.
pathways are formed. You have to
Yeah.
force your brain to remember, right? And struggle is good. If you struggle, then you will remember it better later. So, go ahead, Manisha.
Yeah, mirror talk is also very good if you are not finding anyone. So what sir said, you can talk to yourself, you can teach yourself. So that will be a wonderful idea. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this. Many successful people say reading books help them become successful. What does this tells us?
Reading
Knowledge and
builds
imagination.
knowledge and imagination.
I'm sorry for my throat. I don't know why it is not being proper. Can you please repeat? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Reading builds knowledge and
Reading builds
imagination.
knowledge and imagination.
Certainly. Because success never comes from luck. It is a mixture of everything. Hard work, consistency, and never say no. So जब हम बार बार एक ही काम को करते हैं, success is naturally going to come to us. Thank you so much. If books were superheroes, what power would they have?
All of them.
Okay. So who is your superhero?
All
Do you have any superhero? Or which superhero do you want to become when you grow old? Is there something in your mind, some role model which
Ma'am,
you
actually,
feel?
I have.
Pardon? Yes. Anyone wants to answer? Do you have any superhero or a role model for you?
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, my parents are my superhero because I learn a lot of things by them as they teaches me with kindness, and they also teaches me some new things that are knowledgeable.
That's wonderful. Anyone else wants to share? Or should I
Ma'am,
start
can
reading?
I?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, actually, my role model is Vyomika Singh, Wing Commander. She was really popular during Operation Sindoor. The reason why she is my role model is because I aim to join Indian Air Force, and the way she communicates, the way she leads everything just motivates me and pushes
That's
me
so
through.
nice. That's actually very good. So with this, let me start with my reading. So this is, as I've already told you, ये मेरे किताब का बहुत ही आखिरी chapter है, or I can say a story, and it is little longer, so I may not be able to complete this. So we'll be reading the next week also. इस स्टोरी का नाम है देवदार के घने जंगल के बीच में स्कूल. सो जस्ट इमेजिन एक जंगल के बीच में स्कूल कैसे दिखता होगा. नेचुरली ग्रीन, ब्यूटीफुल, फुल ऑफ सीन, सीनिक ब्यूटी, और पर्यावरण के लिए भी बहुत अच्छा होगा. ओके. एक फुर्तीले और बलवान तेंदुए ने, आई रिक्वेस्ट एवरीवन टू प्लीज म्यूट, बी म्यूटेड. शानवी प्लीज म्यूट. शानवी, वे शानवी. ओके. एक फुर्तीले और बलवान तेंदुए ने पहाड़ के झरने से पानी पिया और फिर फरवरी माह के अंतिम दिनों की धूप का आनंद देने के लिए वही घास पर लेट गया. कभी कभी वो अपनी पूंछ को हिला देता था और ऐसा लगता था कि मानो वह सो रहा हो. दूर से आती आवाज को सुनने के लिए उसने अपना सिर उठाया, फिर खड़ा हुआ और धीमे से झरने के पत्थरों पर छलांग मारकर झरने के दूसरे सिरों के पेड़ों के बीच गायब हो गया. तो यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा सीन बताया हुआ है कि कैसे तेंदुआ उठ करके बाहर चला जाता है. और अगर आप लोग सोच रहे कि ये बुक हम स्क्रीन पे क्यों नहीं दिखा रहे, तो हम क्रेडिट देना चाहते हैं इस बुक के राइटर और पब्लिशर को, इसलिए हम बुक नहीं दिखा रहे. ये वाली बुक सॉफ्ट कॉपी में अवेलेबल नहीं है. जो भी बुक सॉफ्ट कॉपी में अवेलेबल होती है हम उसका किंडल एडिशन लेकर के दिखाते हैं, पर ये बुक नहीं अवेलेबल है, इसलिए हम ऐसे ही रीड कर रहे हैं. इस घटना के 1 या 2 मिनट बाद 3 बच्चे जंगल के रास्ते चलते हुए आए. उसने एक लड़की और 2 लड़के थे और वह अपनी स्थानीय बोली में एक पुराना गाना गा रहे थे जो कि उन्होंने अपने दादा दादी से सीखा था. अभी 5 कोस और चलना है, हमें बारिश और बर्फ को चीरते हुए बढ़ना है और एक नदी पार करने के लिए एक पहाड़ को लांघना है. 4 कोस और शेष है जिसे हमने फतेह करना ही है. स्कूल नया दिखाई दे रहा था. उनके कपड़े धुले और प्रेस थे. उनके द्वारा तेज और खुशनुमा आवाज में गाए जा रहे गाने से चितकबरी फोर्क टेल नामक पक्षी चौकन्ना हो गई थी. पक्षी ने पानी में पड़े अपने पसंदीदा पत्थर को छोड़ा और अंधेरी घाटी में उड़ गए. सबसे बड़ा लड़का प्रकाश, जो पहले भी इस रास्ते से सैकड़ों बार आ चुका था, बोला, बस अब हमें कुल 3 मील और चलना है, लेकिन इसे पूरा करने के लिए पहले हमें नदी को पार करना होगा. वह 12 साल का हट्टा कट्टा लड़का था जिसकी आंखें रसभरी जैसी थी और सिर पर घने बाल जो कि एक जगह रुकने का नाम नहीं ले रहे थे. जबकि उनके पास चल रही लड़की और उसका छोटा भाई पहली बार इस रास्ते से गुजर रहे थे. छोटे लड़के ने कहा, बीना, अब मैं थक गया हूं. बीना उसकी तरफ देखकर मुस्कुराई और प्रकाश ने कहा, सोनू, कोई बात नहीं, तुम इस तरह से चलने के आदी हो जाओगे, अभी बहुत वक्त है. उसने अपनी पुरानी घड़ी की ओर देखा जो उसे उसके दादाजी से मिली थी. उसने बताया, इस घड़ी को लगातार हिलाने की जरूरत होती है. हम 5 या 6 मिनट के लिए आराम कर सकते हैं. वे एक बड़ी सी चिकनी चट्टान पर बैठ गए और पहाड़ की तरफ से गिरती हुई साफ और उथली नदी को, धारा को देखने लगे। बीना प्रकाश की कलाई पर बंधी घड़ी की जांच करने लगी। उस घड़ी के कांच पर बहुत ज्यादा खरोंचें थी, जिससे वह बमुश्किल से डायल को देख पा रही थी। उसने प्रकाश से जानना चाहा, क्या उसे यकीन है कि यह घड़ी अभी भी समय सही दिखा रही है। प्रकाश ने बताया, यह घड़ी प्रतिदिन 5 मिनट पीछे हो जाती है, इसलिए मैं रात को 10 मिनट आगे कर देता हूँ। इसका अर्थ है कि सुबह होने तक यह घड़ी ठीक समय दिखाने लगती है। यहाँ तक कि हमारे टीचर श्रीमान मणि भी मुझसे ही समय पूछते हैं। अगर वह नहीं पूछते हैं तो भी मैं उन्हें समय बताता हूँ। हमारी कक्षा में लगी हुई घड़ी अक्सर रुक जाती है। आजकल सारी ही कक्षाओं में घड़ियां लगी होती हैं, तो और आप लोग भी घड़ी बांधते ही होंगे। तो पहले जमाने में जो घड़ियां थी और आज के टाइम पे जो घड़ी है, आपको लगता है सेम है कि कुछ डिफरेंट है? कुछ डिफरेंस है आजकल की घड़ी में और पहले जो घड़ियां थी?
यस मैम, पहले जब में स्मार्ट वॉचेस नहीं होती थी, और नाउ दिस इन दिस जनरेशन वी हैव स्मार्ट वॉच।
तो व्हाट इज अ स्मार्ट वॉच? आप किसको स्मार्ट वॉच कह रहे हैं?
मैम,
जिसमें
स्मार्ट वॉच हैज features like games, WhatsApps, and other health features like how much steps we had taken in a whole day, and what before watches had was only two sticks which tells hours and minutes, and a stick for second, nothing more than this.
ओके, आजकल की स्मार्ट वॉचेस सब चीजें आपको बताती है, आपके हेल्थ चार्ट भी, आपकी कैलोरीज भी, खाने में क्या खाया क्या नहीं खाया। नित्या कह रही है स्मार्ट वॉच इज अ मिनी वर्जन ऑफ अ स्मार्टफोन। ठीक है, स्मार्टफोन का मिनी वर्जन है। वेरी गुड, दैट्स वंडरफुल। एंड दूसरा, आपको लगता है कि स्मार्ट वॉच या आजकल के गैजेट से लाइफ इजी हुई है कि डिफिकल्ट हुई है?
Ma'am, easy.
ओके, हाउ?
Ma'am, because they are supposed to do those works who men and humans before used to do.
ओके, स्मार्ट वॉच काफी चीजें कर देती है जो पहले आदमी, मतलब लोग पहले नहीं कर पाते थे। बट क्या आपको लग रहा है कि वो आपकी मेंटल पीस को हटाती जा रही हैं एंड आप अपने फैमिली से भी अलग होते जा रहे हैं गैजेट्स के कारण? ऐसा लग रहा है कुछ कि अब आजकल सब बात करना लोगों ने बंद कर दिया है, एक दूसरे से सिर्फ व्हाट्सएप पे हेलो हाय हो रही है, फिजिकल टच और ये सब भी खत्म हो गया है।
Yes, ma'am.
सो डू यू वांट टू एलैबोरेट दिस?
Um, Smartphones make it easier to talk to people. So now that people can immediately talk to each other, they don't really like to physically meet. And I've noticed this a lot. Like, my mother calls me even when she's right next to my room, so just so she can easily talk to me. People have
एग्जैक्टली।
become lazy and more attached to their phones. They live inside their phones, and they don't really stop to wait and look around their surroundings and all.
सो हेल्थ का आपके पास सारे मीटर्स है, सब कुछ है, बट जैसे कि अभी अरफा ने बोला कि एक दूसरे के रूम में भी हम जाना पसंद नहीं कर रहे हैं, लाइफ को इजी बनाने के लिए हम कॉल कर रहे हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं वॉक और एक्सरसाइजेस भी खत्म होती जा रही है। तो गैजेट्स, यस, इट्स अ ब्लेसिंग, एट द सेम टाइम थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम्स भी है, चैलेंजेस भी है। तो चैलेंजेस को कम करके साइंस की ब्लेसिंग्स को लेते हैं और आगे चैप्टर में रीड करते हैं। उन्होंने अपने जूते उतार दिए और पहाड़ से आने वाले ठंडे पानी से अपने पैरों को डुबो दिया। बीना प्रकाश की हम उम्र थी। उसके गाल गुलाबी, आंखें हल्की भूरी और बाल घुंघराले थे, लेकिन उसके बाल का प्राकृतिक घुंघरालापन अब कम होता जा रहा था। उसका चेहरा सौम्य था, लेकिन दृढ़ निश्चय। छोटी ठुड्डी से पता चलता था कि वह एक कठोर इंसान हो सकती थी। उसका छोटा भाई सोनू 10 साल का था। चूंकि बाल अवस्था से ही वो काफी बीमार रहा था, इसलिए वह दुबला पतला लड़का था, लेकिन अब उसकी मांसपेशियां बढ़ने लगी थी। हालांकि वह एथलीट की तरह हुष्ट पुष्ट नहीं दिखाई देता था, पर वह हवा के माथे पे दौड़ता था। बीना पहाड़ की दूसरी तरफ अपने गांव कोली में स्कूल जाती थी, लेकिन यह एक प्राथमिक विद्यालय था जो कक्षा 5 तक ही था। अब छठी कक्षा में पढ़ने के लिए उसे रोज कई मील पैदल चलकर नौटी नामक जगह जाना पड़ता था। यहाँ पर उच्चतर प्राथमिक स्कूल था। आखिरकार यह तय हुआ कि बीना का साथ देने के लिए सोनू भी नए स्कूल में दाखिला लेगा। कोली गांव में उन दोनों का पड़ोसी प्रकाश था, जो कि पहले से ही नौटी स्कूल में पढ़ा करता था। उसका शरारती स्वभाव कभी कभी उसे मुसीबत में डाल देता है, और इन शरारतों का नतीजा यह हुआ कि उसे क्लास को फिर से पढ़ना पड़ा। आपके क्लास में कोई है शरारती बच्चा जो शरारतों से सबको हंसाता भी है पर ट्रबल भी क्रिएट कर देता है क्लास में? है कोई ऐसा जिसे आप पसंद भी करते हो एंड एट द सेम टाइम नहीं भी करते हो?
I think there's one such kid in each class.
सो कोई शेयर करना चाहेगा कि आपको उनकी क्या शरारतें अच्छी लगती है एंड एट द सेम टाइम आपको उनकी कौन सी बात अच्छी नहीं लगती है?
मैम मैं बताऊं?
हाँ जी प्लीज।
मैम मेरे लाइक पिछले क्लास में एक बच्ची हुआ करती थी। उसने इस साल स्कूल छोड़ दिया। वो सारी टीचर्स उससे इतना परेशान थी, वो क्लास के बीच में उठ के कभी भी उठ के किसी भी बच्चे की सीट पे जाके उसकी सीट पे जाके बैठ जाएगी, उसके ऊपर जाके बैठ जाएगी। कभी भी क्लास में उठ के बीच में नाचने लग जाएगी। और उसकी और हमारे क्लास में एक और बच्चा था, उन दोनों की इतनी लड़ाई होती थी। वो लोग हर क्लास में बीच में उठ के एक दूसरे का सामान छुपा देते थे, एक दूसरे की सीट पे ग्लू लगा देते थे, और टीचर्स के सामने इतनी शरारतें करते रहते थे। और आधा पीरियड तो टीचर्स के डांटने में ही निकल जाता था। हमारे पिछले क्लास में एक टीचर थी, इंग्लिश की जो हमारी टीचर थी, वो बेचारी अपना पूरा पीरियड उसको डांटने में निकाल देती थी। और हमें उनका पीरियड इतना अच्छा लगता था क्योंकि हम सारे बाकी के बच्चे पीछे बैठ के पूरे टाइम खेलते रहते थे। और मेरे को याद है मैंने इंग्लिश की नोटबुक तक नहीं बनाई थी, क्योंकि आधे से ज्यादा टाइम कुछ होता ही नहीं था, बस उसको डांटने में ही सारा टाइम निकल जाता था।
That's funny. कोई और?
एक्चुअली अभी जब मायरा बता रही थी मुझे लग रहा था कि मैं उस क्लासरूम के अंदर हूँ और उस बच्चे को मैं देख रही हूँ इधर से उधर भागते हुए और शरारतें करते हुए। तो यस इट इज फनी। आपने कभी पूछा उस बच्चे से कि आप ऐसा क्यों करते हो? अटेंशन सीकर है वो, या फिर क्या रीजन
मैम
क्या था उसका ऐसा शरारत करने का?
मैम वो एक्चुअली मेरी दोस्त है। तो उसकी मैम वो दिख जब वो शरारतें करती है तो वो इतनी फनी लगती है क्योंकि उसकी हाइट बहुत छोटी सी है। और उसके मुंह पे हमेशा गुस्सा रहता है, मतलब वो हमेशा गुस्से वाली शक्ल में रहती है। तो इतनी फनी लगती है जब वो इधर से उधर भागती है शरारतें करते हुए। तो हमने उससे पूछा था एक बार कि वो क्यों करती है। तो उसने कहा कि मेरे को कोई अटेंशन सीख करने का शौक नहीं है। मुझे बस मेरा बस ये है कि मैं जो करना चाहूँ मैं वो करना चाहती हूँ, और मैं किसी और की बात नहीं, रूल्स पे नहीं चलना चाहती।
Certainly, I'll do what I want to and I don't want to follow the rules. Yes, बहुत से बच्चे ये चाहते हैं ऐसा करना, कई बार अच्छा भी होता है कई बार बुरा भी होता है। ठीक है, चैप्टर में आगे देखते हैं क्या हुआ उस शरारती बच्चे के कारण। लेकिन इससे उसे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा। उसने अपने नाराज माता पिता से कहा, इतनी जल्दी भी क्या है, मेरे स्कूल खत्म करने के बाद तुम मुझे विदेश तो नहीं भेजने जा रहे हो, और नहीं हमारी गाय ही भाग रही है। जब वे सब आगे बढ़ने के लिए उठे तो बीना ने प्रकाश से पूछा, आप गाय को देखभाल करना पसंद करेंगे? क्या ये सही बात है? ओह स्कूल, तब तो सब ठीक है। उस वक्त तक इंतजार करो जब तक कि तुम्हारे सामने बूढ़े मणि से न पड़ जाए। वह हमेशा हमारे नामों को मिला देते थे। इस इतना ही नहीं बल्कि उन विषयों को भी जिसे उन्हें पढ़ाना होता है। आखिरी घंटी में गणित के बजाय उन्होंने हमें भूगोल का पाठ पढ़ा दिया। शानवी, मैं आपको म्यूट कर रही हूँ, प्लीज नेक्स्ट टाइम अनम्यूट मत होइएगा। बीना ने कहा, गणित से ज्यादा सामाजिक विज्ञान में मजा आता है। हाँ, लेकिन इस साल एक नई टीचर आई है। वह कभी बहुत जवान है, ऐसा कहा जाता है कि अभी ही उन्होंने कॉलेज की पढ़ाई पूरी की है। मैं सोचता हूँ कि वह कैसी लगती होगी। बीना तेजी से चलने लगी और इस कारण से सोनू उनके साथ चलने में थोड़ा परेशानी महसूस करने लगा। वह नए स्कूल और अलग परिवेश के बारे में सोचकर उत्साहित थी। शायद ही कभी वह उस गांव से बाहर गई थी जहां उनका छोटा सा स्कूल और एकमात्र गल्ले की दुकान थी। उस गांव में उनकी दिनचर्या से कोई बदलाव नहीं आता था। उनके खेतों में अपनी माँ की मदद करना या झरने में पानी लाना या मवेशियों के लिए घास और चारा काटना जैसे कामों में मदद करने के अलावा कुछ और काम नहीं था। उनके पिता सैनिक थे, जिस कारण से उन्हें साल में 9 महीने बाहर ही रहना पड़ता था। और जहां तक सोनू का सवाल था, वह कभी भारी काम करने के लिए बहुत ही छोटा था। तो आप लोग भी घर में कुछ ना कुछ काम करते ही होंगे। और कैसा लगता है आपको ऐसी रूटीन लाइफ में? अच्छा लगता है या लगता है कि रोज चेंजेस आने चाहिए? जैसे कि इस कहानी में गांव के बारे में बोला गया है कि पानी वो लेकर के आते हैं, कभी अपने गाय भैंसों को चरा दिया या फिर उनके लिए चारा डाल दिया या कुछ और छोटे मोटे घर के काम। ज्यादा तो एक्सपोजर होता नहीं है गांव में। तो लाइफ ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि एक्साइटमेंट होनी चाहिए लाइफ में और रोज नए नए चैलेंजेस होने चाहिए। कौन सी लाइफ आप लोग को अच्छी लगती है?
कभी कभी ये, कभी कभी वो।
यस, कभी इस तरफ कभी उस तरफ, क्योंकि रोज चैलेंजेस भी बहुत बोरिंग हो जाते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे पास उतना स्टैमिना नहीं होता है, हम परेशान हो जाते हैं। एंड इसीलिए लोग घूमने जाना शायद पसंद करते हैं, क्योंकि वहां जाके लाइफ उनको दूसरी ही तरफ ले जाती है। थैंक यू सर। जैसे ही वे नौटी गांव के पास पहुंचे, अलग अलग दिशाओं से आ रहे अन्य बच्चे भी उनके साथ जुड़ते चले गए। यहाँ तक कि जहां पर कोई मुख्य सड़क नहीं थी, वहां भी पहाड़ छोटी छोटी गलियों और छोटे रास्तों में फटा पड़ा। पहाड़ियों और गांव के बीच से गुजरते ये संकरे टेढ़े मेढ़े रास्ते सांप और सीढ़ी के खेल की तरह खेतों और संकीर्ण खड्डों से उस वक्त तक गुजरते थे जब तक कि वे सभी दिशाओं से आकर एक काफी व्यस्त सड़क में तब्दील नहीं हो जाती थी। इस सड़क पर खच्चर, मवेशी और बकरियों का जमावट दिखाई देता था। नौटी एक अच्छा खासा बड़ा गांव था और इस जगह से चौड़ी पर धूल भरी सड़क टिहरी के लिए शुरू होती थी। वहां एक छोटी बस, बहुत से ट्रक और एक रोड रोलर था। सड़क अभी तैयार नहीं हुई थी क्योंकि भारी भरकम डीजल रोलर नौटी की तीखी चढ़ाई पर नहीं चढ़ सकता था। यह रोलर टिहरी से आधी दूरी पर सड़क के किनारे खड़ा था। प्रकाश उस क्षेत्र के लगभग सभी लोगों से परिचित था। दूसरे अन्य बच्चों के साथ साथ खच्चर चलाने वाले बस चालकों, दूध वालों और सड़क पर काम करने वाले मजदूरों के साथ उसका दुआ सलाम का रिश्ता था। हमें सभी लोगों का समय बिताना बहुत अच्छा लगता था, फिर चाहे उन लोगों की समय जानने में कोई दिलचस्पी हो या न हो। वह अपनी कलाई पर बंधी घड़ी पर नजर गड़ाकर घोषणा करता, 9 बजे है, क्या आज तुम लोगों की बस नहीं जा रही है? बस का ड्राइवर छिड़क कर कहता, भागो अपना काम करो, मुझे जब लगेगा तब मैं उन्हें ले जाऊंगा। जनरली बस ड्राइवर की एक प्रकृति होती है, उनका एक नेचर होता है कि जब तक पूरी बस नहीं बढ़ जाए या मैक्सिमम नहीं बढ़ जाए वो जाते नहीं है। टाइम से ज्यादा उनको कोई मतलब होता नहीं है। ये ज्यादातर दूर दराज के गांव में या आसपास के उसमें होता है, क्योंकि सिटीज में अगर ऐसी बस खड़ी होती रही तो फिर जगह ही कम हो जाएगी, सारी बसेस ही रहेगी। तो यहाँ के ड्राइवर भी वैसे ही करते थे, वो टाइम पे नहीं जाते थे और कोशिश करते थे कि मैक्सिमम उनको पैसेंजर्स मिल जाए और उसके बाद वो लेकर के जा सके। बच्चे जैसे ही नौटी के पास पहुंचे, उन्हें गांव के बाहरी इलाके में एक सपाट टीले पर स्कूल भवन दिखाई देने लगा। यह भवन लंबी पत्तियों वाले चीड़ के पेड़ों के कतर से घिरा हुआ था। खेल के मैदान पर एक छोटी सी भीड़ जमा हो चुकी थी। ऐसा लग रहा था कि शायद वहां पर कुछ असामान्य घटना घटित हुई है। प्रकाश जानने के लिए तेजी से आगे बढ़ा, जबकि बीना और सोनू चार दीवारी के पास धूप में एक तरफ खड़े होकर उसका इंतजार करने लगे। प्रकाश जल्दी ही दौड़ता हुआ उनके पास वापस आया। वह जोश से भरा हुआ था। उसने हाफते हुए उन्हें बताया, श्रीमान मणि वह गायब हो गए हैं। लोग कह रहे हैं उन्हें तेंदुआ उठाकर ले गया। तो आपको क्या लगता है, तेंदुआ उठा के ले गया होगा श्रीमान मणि को, उनके टीचर को? कोई बताना चाहेगा कि श्रीमान मणि कहाँ जा सकते हैं, कहाँ गए होंगे? एनी थॉट्स ऑन दिस? तो चैप्टर बहुत ही एक्साइटेड मोमेंट पे है। मैं अभी आपकी एक्साइटमेंट खत्म नहीं करूंगी और इस चैप्टर को हम नेक्स्ट वीक रीड करेंगे। तो जैसे कि आपको वृंदा मैम ने भी बोला था, मैं भी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ कि आप लोग जो भी आपके थॉट प्रोसेस है आज के सेशन के बारे में, आप कुछ लिखना चाहते हैं, कुछ ड्राइंग बनाना चाहते हैं, उसको बना करके हमें भेजिए। अब चूंकि आपके एग्जाम भी खत्म हो गए हैं तो रीडिंग पे एम्फोसाइज करिए, एक दो किताबें खरीदिए, और जैसे कि किताब पढ़ के उसके रिव्यूज के बारे में आप बता सकते हैं, जैसे कि वो बुक हम भी यहाँ पे आप सबके साथ वापस से पढ़ सके। सो विद दिस, जुगदीप सर, ओवर टू यू।
नहीं, खाली एक ही चीज ऐड करूंगा कि जरूरी नहीं कि किताब इंग्लिश होनी चाहिए, हिंदी भी हो सकती है।
किसी भी लैंग्वेज में हो सकते हैं, क्योंकि हम हिंदी भी पढ़ते हैं, तो लैंग्वेज कैन बी एनीथिंग। बट हाँ, इंग्लिश हिंदी के अलावा कोई और लैंग्वेज मत बोलिएगा।
नहीं, बता सकते हैं इस किताब के बारे में, हमको कोई दिक्कत नहीं है।
नहीं, यस, बुक रिव्यू कैन बी ऑफ एनी लैंग्वेज। सो आप अपने पसंदीदा लैंग्वेज की बुक पढ़िए और उसके रिव्यूज बताइए, उससे रिलेटेड ड्राइंग करिए। आप अपने आप को भी ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं बुक रीड करते समय, आप अपने फ्रेंड को भी ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं, या अपने क्लासरूम के छोटे छोटे किस्से बता सकते हैं कि क्या हुआ, नॉटी बच्चे कैसे करते हैं, आपकी क्या रिएक्शन है। कुछ भी आप अपने स्कूल के बारे में, घर के बारे में, फैमिली फ्रेंड्स के बारे में हमें बताइए, हमारे लिख करके भेजिए और उसको हम आपको पब्लिश करके देंगे। सो जुगजीत से आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
नहीं जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आई वाजंट एक्सपेक्टिंग एग्जाम्स आर फिनिश्ड बेसिकली, मोस्ट फॉर मोस्ट पीपल।
हाँ सर, एक दो स्कूल के खत्म हो गए, एक दो के चल रहे हैं, एंड क्लास 10 का बोर्ड एग्जाम यस खत्म हो गया है।
Right. No, so that's good. That's good. Nahin, all good, yeah. So see you next Sunday.
So with this we end today's session. Thank you everyone for joining. Next Sunday मुझे ऐसा लगता है एक दो स्कूलों की और एग्जाम खत्म हो जाएंगी, तो काफी बच्चे ज्वाइन करने वाले हैं। Thank you so much. Do write your
Okay.
reflections, your
Thank
book
you,
reviews.
ma'am.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And Jai Hind.
Jai
Jai
Hind.
Bye bye, thanks.
Jai Hind.